If you enjoy hearing about the dumbest scammers who thought nobody would notice, hit subscribe now so you do not miss the next batch of stories. Story 1. I was working the front desk at a small motel when a guy called and claimed he was from the corporate office doing a surprise audit. He told me I needed to read him all the credit card numbers from the reservation system to verify security. I told him that sounded illegal, and he replied that I was not paid enough to question corporate. I put him on hold, walked into the manager's office, and let her pick up the phone while I listened. She introduced herself as the owner, and he hung up so fast the dial tone cut her off mid-sentence. Story 2. I was selling my old laptop online when a woman messaged me saying she would overpay by $200 if I refunded the extra to her nephew through gift cards. She said it was because her bank was acting weird, and this was easier. I replied that I would only accept cash or direct transfer. She called me stubborn and claimed I was ruining her Christmas, so I blocked her, and 10 minutes later got the exact same message from a different account using the same spelling mistakes. Story 3. I was working at a grocery store when a man came up to customer service waving his phone and saying the store had just texted him that he won $1,000. The message was from a random number with a broken logo and asked him to buy prepaid cards to claim it. I explained that we do not run contests through text messages and pointed at the official signs behind me. He argued that I was jealous of his good luck, then stormed out to the gift card rack and came back empty-handed because the cashier refused to sell him anything after hearing what he was doing. Story 4. I was in my dorm room when someone knocked and said they were from the power company checking meters. I looked through the peephole and saw a teenager wearing a hoodie with the company name spelled wrong in Sharpie. He asked if I could step outside so he could read my breaker box, which is inside the apartment. I told him the maintenance office was closed and I would call the utility company myself, and he suddenly remembered he was at the wrong building and jogged down the stairs without looking back. Story 5. I was helping my grandma clean her computer when a pop-up appeared saying her device was infected and that she needed to call a number immediately. The man who answered told her he could fix everything if she paid him in Bitcoin, which she had never even heard of. I took the phone, asked him why Microsoft would need digital coins from a retired school teacher, and he replied that I should respect my elders and let the expert talk. I closed the browser, blocked the number, and my grandma told me she was glad the nice virus man had stopped calling. Story 6. I was listing a couch for free pickup when a guy emailed me saying he was overseas, but would send a moving company if I paid the deposit first. He wrote like he was reading from a script and called the couch a motor vehicle twice. I replied that I would happily wait until he returned to the country. He accused me of discrimination and then accidentally forwarded me the same email he had just sent, complete with a different name at the top. Story 7. I was working nights at a gas station when a woman tried to convince me that the ATM inside was broken and that I should give her cash from the register instead. She said she would Venmo me later and even showed me a fake screenshot of a pending transfer. I told her I could not open the drawer without a sale, and she leaned in and whispered that no one would know. I pointed at the camera screen behind me, showing her face in 4 angles, and she left without another word. Story 8. I was house-sitting when a man called claiming to be a police officer and said there was a warrant connected to the property. He demanded I pay a fine immediately using store gift cards to avoid being arrested. I asked him why the police would accept gift cards, and he said it was a new program to make things easier for civilians. I replied that I was sure the real police would love to hear about that, and he hung up before I finished the sentence. Story 9. I was at a flea market when a guy tried to sell me a brand new smartphone still in the box for $50. He said he worked at a warehouse and got extras all the time. I opened the box and found a block of wood with a sticker on it shaped like a phone. He grabbed it back and said I was not supposed to open it until I got home, then disappeared into the crowd when I laughed. Story 10. I was helping my dad clear his voicemail when he played me a message from a man claiming to be the IRS. The caller said my dad owed thousands in back taxes and would be arrested that afternoon if he did not call back immediately. The number left on the voicemail belonged to a pizza place in another state, so my dad ordered a large pepperoni and told the confused teenager who answered that he must have the wrong job. Story 11. I was trying to sell an old dresser online when a guy asked if I could ship it to his cousin in another state. He said he would email me a check for extra and I just needed to refund the difference through a payment app. I told him I did not accept checks, and he replied that I was making things difficult for no reason. When I asked why a simple local pickup needed a financial gymnastics routine, he stopped replying entirely. Story 12. I was working the front desk at a gym when a man came in waving his phone and said his membership fee had been doubled without warning. He showed me an email that looked like it was typed in a rush with our logo stretched out of shape. I told him we had no record of any charges like that and asked him to forward it to our official address. He said he could not because the email self-destructed after opening, which was the exact moment I realised he was trying to scam a refund from a company that had his card on file. Story 13. I was about to pay my electric bill when I got a call saying my power would be shut off in 30 minutes unless I paid a special emergency fee. The woman on the phone said it was because I had ignored my mailed notices, even though I had just checked my mailbox that morning. I asked her to confirm my address, and she read off a street name I had never lived on in my life. When I pointed that out, she told me the system was lagging and then hung up when I said I would just call the utility company myself. Story 14. I was at my mum's house when her phone rang and a man claimed to be her bank calling about suspicious charges. He asked her to confirm her full card number, expiration date, and security code to stop the fraud. She started reading it out before I cut in and told him that banks do not ask for that information. He snapped that I was interfering with an official investigation, so I told him the only investigation happening was about to involve my local police department, and he slammed the phone down like it had personally offended him. Story 15. I was working a night shift at a hotel when a woman called saying she had left a very expensive necklace in one of our rooms and needed me to read out the credit card numbers used in the last 10 bookings to prove it was hers. I told her that even if I wanted to, I could not access that information, which made her sigh loudly and claim I was useless. I asked her what room she had stayed in, and she replied with a room number that did not exist in our building, then immediately hung up. Story 16. I was listing my old phone for sale when someone messaged me saying they were deaf and could only communicate through email, which would have been fine if the email address had not been a random string of numbers. They said they would send me a payment screenshot, and I just needed to mail the phone right away because their courier was waiting. The screenshot showed a balance of $0 and a transfer that said pending forever, and when I told them I would wait until it cleared, they accused me of discrimination for not trusting them. Story 17. I was at a coffee shop when a stranger tapped my shoulder and said he was with the store and needed to check my phone for suspicious activity on the Wi-Fi network. He said hackers had been targeting customers and he needed my password to protect me. I asked him why the real employees were all wearing green aprons and he was not, and he said he was undercover. I offered to walk him to the manager and he pretended to get a call and walked straight out the door. Story 18. I was helping my aunt cancel her cable when a man called saying he could lower her bill if she gave him remote access to her computer. He said it was a courtesy service and all companies were doing it now. I opened his website on my own laptop and it was a single page with a spinning logo and no contact information. When I asked him what company he even worked for, he said, "Do not worry about it," and then disconnected the call like I had broken a sacred rule. Story 19. I was checking my email at work when I got a message that looked like it was from my boss saying he needed gift cards immediately for a surprise client meeting. It said to keep it confidential and just send the codes. I walked into his office and asked him if he was planning any surprise meetings, and he looked at me like I had lost my mind. Story 20. I was helping my neighbour sell her car when a guy showed up and said he forgot his wallet but could write a cheque for the full amount. He asked if we could give him the title now, so he could come back later with cash. I pointed out that nobody in their right mind would hand over a car for a promise, and he claimed we were insulting his character. He left in such a hurry that he forgot the fake license he had shown us, which turned out to be printed on regular printer paper. Story 21. I was working at a small electronics shop when a woman came in saying she needed to return a smartwatch she bought that morning. The receipt looked fine at first, but the store number was wrong and the ink smeared when I touched it. I told her I needed to verify the transaction, and she immediately started crying about being late for work. My manager asked for her ID, and she bolted for the door so fast she left the watch on the counter, which turned out to be a plastic demo model. Story 22. I was sitting in my car in a grocery store parking lot when someone knocked on my window and said he was with roadside assistance. He claimed my tyre looked low and he could fix it for $20 cash. I checked all 4 tyres and they were completely fine, so I told him I was good. He insisted it was about to blow any second, which was impressive considering I had just driven an hour on it. And when I started my engine, he jumped back like I had ruined his entire business plan. Story 23. I was at my parents' house when the landline rang, and a woman said my brother had been arrested and needed bail money immediately. My mum started panicking until I asked the woman what police station he was at. She hesitated and said the downtown one, which we do not even have in our town. When I told her my brother was sitting on the couch eating cereal, she went quiet and hung up without another word. Story 24. I was selling concert tickets when someone messaged me saying they would pay double if I sent them the digital files first. They said their payment app was having issues, but promised it would clear later that night. I replied that I would happily wait, and they told me I was being paranoid and that trust was important in business relationships. They blocked me 5 minutes later, which really helped prove their point. Story 25. I was helping my cousin look for apartments when a so-called landlord emailed saying we could move in immediately if we sent a security deposit before seeing the place. He attached photos that looked suspiciously like a hotel room. I searched one of the images and found it on a real estate site in another state, then asked him why his apartment existed in 2 places at once. He replied that I was overthinking things and then vanished. Story 26. I was at the library when a guy came up to me and said he was doing a survey for a phone company and needed to verify my number by sending me a code. I told him I did not participate in surveys. He insisted it was quick and free, so I asked why he needed my phone to run his job. He got flustered, said I was making it weird, and walked away to find someone who apparently made it less weird to steal from. Story 27. I was in line at the bank when a man behind me leaned forward and said the teller was new and I should watch my account because mistakes happen. He offered to look at my balance for me on his phone to make sure everything was fine. I asked him how exactly he planned to see my account, and he said I just needed to log in on his device. When I laughed, he pretended it was a joke and suddenly became very interested in the brochure stand. Story 28. I was listing a bike for sale when someone messaged me saying they would pay in full if I mailed it to their cousin overseas. They claimed their card would not work on shipping sites, so I just needed to buy the label myself and they would reimburse me later. I told them the bike was pick-up only. They replied with a paragraph about how honest they were, which somehow did not make me feel any better. Story 29. I was helping my aunt file her taxes online when she got an email saying her refund had been delayed due to suspicious activity. It had an official-looking seal and a link to update her information. I hovered over the link and it went to a random site that ended in .help, so I deleted it and showed her how real government emails never ask you to click anything like that. Story 30. I was working at a hardware store when a woman came in with a receipt and a power drill. She said she bought that morning. The receipt had our logo, but the date was from 3 months in the future. I told her the system could not even print future dates, and she said technology was unpredictable. My manager walked over, asked her to wait, and she walked out without her drill. Story 31. I was at a self-checkout when a guy said the machine had eaten his money and he needed me to show him how to open it. He said he used to work there and knew how these things jammed. I pointed out that the drawer was locked for a reason, and he said I was overreacting. A real employee came over to reset the machine, and he disappeared so fast he left his groceries behind. Story 32. I was helping my dad set up his email when he got a message saying his account had been hacked and he needed to confirm his password immediately. It was signed by the email company, but the return address was a free account. I replied to the scammer, asking how they had been hacked if they were sending the email, and they replied that I was being difficult and should cooperate for my own safety. Story 33. I was at a bus stop when a man said he was collecting donations for disaster relief and asked me to scan a QR code. The code went to a payment page that spelled the charity name wrong. I told him I would donate directly through the real website instead, and he said that defeated the purpose of helping people. Story 34. I was babysitting when someone called the house phone claiming to be the internet provider and said the service would be cut in an hour unless I verified the account. I told them I was just the babysitter and did not even know the last name on the bill. They said that was fine and asked for the router password instead, which is when I hung up. Story 35. I was trying to sell an old gaming console when a guy insisted he would only pay with screenshots because his bank app was down. He sent me a very convincing fake transfer image and told me to ship it immediately. I told him I would wait for the money to actually appear, and he said I was wasting his time, which somehow made me feel very secure about my decision.